Are you the spirit of podcasts past?
Maybe not the future.
That's right. This is the last episode.
Let this be a warning to you. This could be you.
Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. My name is Dr. Defenestration, and joining me for the first and possibly last time, we'll see how it goes, are my fiends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hey guys, hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Halloween.
Likewise. I'm particularly interested in Kat's, what would you say, attributes. They appear to be very natural. Oh, she is a demonic, sexy librarian?
Librarian.
Devilish.
Librarian.
Oh,
Okay.
so you have a pencil tucked in your bun back there.
I do. I do. It's a
That's-
Ticonderoga.
Very good. And John, I see, did not wear a costume at all. Why not, John? It just looks like a typical one.
I am also a gangster, so it's all I could. I mean, cheers to you. That's all I got. So.
Whoa.
Wow. Whoa.
Please, pour one out for our homies.
Okay. Sometimes you just need a little drink. That's what it is.
Are you Run or DMC?
I'm DJ Johnny Red, yo.
DJ Johnny Red. All right.
Johnny Red. DJ Johnny Red and the Fly Swatter. His backup dancers. This is Hype Man. On today's show, I'll be hosting. We'll be discussing the truth behind the Glatzel possession, Bono murder that stabs at the heart of the Netflix new documentary, The Devil on Trial. Oh, and if you're wondering where your friend Will is, we can say hello to him as well. Check in on him and have a little fun with him as well. See if we can't shake things up here, let's see.
Oh!
Whoa.
Hey, let me out of here.
Live on Facebook.
Oh, Kat, John, I can't hear you guys. I can't see you.
Nope.
But listen to me. You got to get me out of here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this guy has planned for me either, but it's probably not good. Please, just listen to it.
Enough of that.
Oh, no.
Don't need him anymore.
I better text my friends in Ohio. See if they can do a rescue.
Well, I have some testing planned on him later. I want to find out everything I can about podcasters. What makes them so interested in this medium when I make no money and have less talent. But we'll find out about that later. Okay, on today's
He's the
show,
one
we're
to ask,
going to do that blah, blah,
good
blah.
planning.
Before we do that, however, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, including Beetlejuice. His iconic costume is back, the afterlife for Harry Bellafonte, and a Creepshow video game. Time codes are in the show notes if you'd like to skip around.
Not Will's captor. Before we begin
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
with the news items, I
Yes.
wanted to take just a second here.
I'm still finding
because
my voice.
If
Yes.
if when you abducted Will, if you had
Yes.
looked around his desk or whatnot, you may have discovered this like a blue envelope.
Oh,
It was addressed to him. Do you
I
happen
have
to see
a
anything
red-
like that?
There's a red envelope.
You have a
addressed
red
to him.
envelope.
Yes.
It's very
That's
comparable.
true.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think
Should we
these are
open
from
these?
Kat, and
Okay.
well, I mean, Will's supposed to open it. I guess you could. I don't know.
Well, I'll have someone bring it to
could.
you. Hold on. Could you take this to you know who, you know where? Please. Thank you. You'll get it momentarily.
He's got minions.
Perhaps you want to open
get
yours
it
first,
Okay.
John.
I can open mine, sure.
Okay.
So
Very good.
I did the old X-Acto trick on it, but I have not opened it proper yet. So
Almost a sneak preview there.
now we
All right.
talked about gifts, right, Kat? We talked about my problem with gifts.
Oh, yes.
So
I understand.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
any reaction you have
can't
is
tend to be excited. So if it's shit, you'll know it.
So it feels knitted or macrameed or something.
Oh,
Okay, all right.
yeah, something similar.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Let's see. Oh, what is that?
Oh.
Looks like the top of a Pope hat. You got a Pope hat. Oh, no, there's more.
Is that what it is?
No.
It seemed like maybe.
It's a little.
Pope?
Yes. Pope hat.
It's like if my grandmother found out I joined Starfleet, she'd go, "Oh, I've knitted a little something for you for your uniform. You put it on your jammies. It'd be lovely."
John, that would look great on your hat, right in the center.
You're welcome. Oh, yes, actually.
Right up there.
Oh, it totally matches.
We can put it in the middle here like this.
Oh, yeah. I'm told that Will now houses.
Amazing.
Oh, they're there. They're almost.
What is this? Oh, this is the thing. Cat, this is the thing you got here.
Now open.
Okay.
Harry,
Alright, I'm gonna open it.
you're running out of time.
This is amazing.
What is it?
This is
Oh
so
my
amazing.
God. This is enough to cheer me up down here.
Oh, look at that.
Keep me warm too. Thanks. Cat, John did the same one.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, my God.
In a few hours, he's going to want to eat that hat. He may need to.
Backstory? Would you
Yes.
like?
So, please.
Yes.
Well, we learned something about Will sometime in the past 6 months. I forget when. That he gets a little chilly.
Yes, this is true. Absolutely.
And he was endeavoring to keep himself warm, even with a hat, in bed. But he was still wanting to be attractive to his wife.
That's right.
And I happen to know that Will's wife
That's gonna make
loves
it
Star
work.
Wars.
Yes, she does love Star Wars. That's right. You're right. And R2-D2 is on her hall pass. That's right. You're absolutely right, Kat.
So, Kat, what you're thinking is this. You're thinking she's going to look at Will and go, all right, he's bundled up like a burrito.
Yes,
He's got his
absolutely.
socks tucked in his pants tucked in his socks.
Right.
He's got a triple pillow stuffed under his neck, but
Yes, perfect.
he's got this little beanie,
That's right.
thus doable. Perfect. I see your logic is infallible.
You broke me, John. Yes. And then I thought, well, I got to make something for John too, of course. But John does not need to be warm.
No, but this will make me more attractive to my wife. You're right about that one.
And I think originally she was stitching a thong and then gave up. And so her cod piece, since she knows you like to sleep in the nude,
Where did you start? What part is this?
it's the cod
Is this
piece.
the front or the strap?
That's the ass. That's the ass.
I don't know if
part.
I'm offended or
I don't know.
honored.
I don't know.
I was just following a pattern.
Yes,
Just a pattern.
absolutely. Ooh-ha-ha.
Went down to Michael's Crafts. For
Okay, but enough of that nonsense. Let's get on with 1980s.
Yes.
This week, as reported by comicbook.com. Am I going to... Okay. Beetlejuice.
I love it.
Beetlejuice's iconic threads.
Oh, you're
of
committed now.
In addition to her memorable work for Wednesday and The Little Mermaid, 4-time Academy Award-winning costume designer Colleen Atwood has been working on Tim Burton's long-awaited sequel to Beetlejuice. While chatting about her work on the upcoming Pain Hustlers, comicbook.com, by the way, because Will and I have different prescriptions, I had to make this a jumbo, this script just jumbo-sized. So I could read it without the benefit of glasses. Although I did bring cheaters just in case.
Oh, wow.
Beetlejuice.
I'm slightly less terrified by the Nutty Professor.
Oh, then I must take them off. While chatting about her work on the upcoming Pain Hustlers, comicbook.com asked Atwood about the follow-up outing for The Ghost with the Most. And Atwood revealed that fans will be seeing Michael Keaton in his titular character's iconic striped suit. Atwood said, well, Beetlejuice has to have a striped suit. It's like doing Alice in Wonderland. Alice needs a blue dress. How long they wear it is another thing, but Beetlejuice is the quintessential Beetlejuice. Strangely, it was Michael. He thinks the burgundy tux is the quintessential Beetlejuice, not the striped suit.
I would be stunned if they didn't have the striped suit. It'd be like, you're going to do Top Gun Maverick, but no planes. You know, there's something you've got to have.
Yes.
You've got to have that striped suit. I'd be I'd be mad if they didn't.
I imagine he might
I would too.
start in it and then burst out. In the first moments, like, that was old. Now it's new. Now check out my Riz. Or whatever that is.
Now the stripes are vertical.
Oh, they were vertical, right? They were vertical.
Horizontal. Edit that. You can edit that. Pretend this isn't live.
They're diagonal.
Ho, ho, horizontal.
This is the Halloween bit, not the Christmas bit.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Horizontal.
Now, Oscar-nominated costume designer Aggie Gerard Rogers designed the costume for the original film. She also worked on Burton for Pee-wee's Big Adventure as well. Another of my favorites of Tim Burton. I realize I'm not exaggerating my voice enough sometimes. Regarding the forthcoming sequel, director Burton recently told The Independent, I tried to strip everything and go back to the basics of working with good people and actors and puppets. Wait, he's going back to that? So that means on the other movies I worked on, everyone was an asshole.
Very few of them were puppets, which was unfortunate.
Speaking of Beetlejuice, as reported by the Los Angeles Times, you can't have Beetlejuice without Harry Bellafonte. The music from the entertainer who died earlier this year is forever intertwined with Tim Burton's 1988 comedy. Now, were you familiar with his music before?
Before what?
Before the movie.
Before it was popularized in the film.
Ish.
Yeah.
I probably was most introduced to Harry Belafonte post Beetlejuice, but it wasn't the first time I'd heard it. Right.
Yes.
It was not my first time hearing it either.
Well, certainly three decades earlier, Belafonte helped popularize the Jamaican folk song Day-O. How does it go, Day-O?
Yep.
By recording it for his 1950... There you go. I know I could encourage you to do that. Album Calypso. 30 years.
Me.
What's that?
You didn't get me.
Didn't get you.
Cat fell for it.
Well, then 30 years afterward, Belafonte's smooth baritone for Day-O memorably emerged from the mouth of Catherine O'Hara's Delia during a cookie dinner party set piece. I always thought it seemed very incongruous, but not in the way which they attended. And for me, part of the problem was it didn't sound like the music was in the space. It sounded as if it was another track, which it was, to which she lip-synced.
Sure, I agree.
It would have been much more effective if it was
magic,
as if it was booming out of her mouth for real. I have a big problem with this just generally. ADR.
It sounds like it. Okay.
ADR.
ADR.
You know, they go to all this trouble to make it sound like, for visual effects, to make stuff look in the space. But when they loop and add in dialogue later, they don't, haven't, and I have an idea of how they could, have technology that allows them to replicate whatever was true on the set that day. Or just have them go to a similar space. No, they're in a studio and then they're tweaking knobs to try to make it sound like it was.
Right.
Add a little echo, add a little mute, whatever.
Something.
Muffled. Yeah.
I mean, they do it, but they just, it's like they don't have an ear for it. Anyway.
No.
I am very good with technology. And audio, particularly, as is demonstrated by this episode. Yes.
Evidenced.
Yes. The suggestion to use the song came from O'Hara herself. According to co-star and perhaps convicted felon Jeffrey Jones. Was he ever convicted of those very bad things that he did? You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Google it. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Oh, dear.
She wanted to bring more energy to the scene.
My ignorance is bliss.
Which had originally planned to use an old school R&B song. I guess that would have been.
I wonder which one.
Fine, too. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on what it was, maybe.
But it turns out Back to the Future had already used Johnny B. Good, so it wasn't available.
Johnny! Johnny be good!
Johnny be good.
Everything must be sang in that cadence with those notes. I realize I'm starting to become true crime. It was Belafonte's recordings were reportedly cheaper to license too.
Oh.
Yeah. Using the song in the movie was a strange ask for the Jamaican-American star, but one Belafonte didn't mind, particularly because it came directly from the legendary movie and music magnate David Geffen, who reportedly called Belafonte and told him that he wanted to use the original recordings for the song, or for the film rather.
Boss calls. Yeah.
Yes. Belafonte said, I never had a request like that before. We talked briefly. I liked the idea of Beetlejuice. I liked him, and I agreed to it. Anyway, a bunch of his songs were included, including the number at the end where Lydia Dietz is then dancing and levitating, singing.
Yes.
Levitating, right? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
The song at the end. Jump
Yeah,
in
that's
line,
my favorite.
Jump in the line.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's on my
in the
playlist.
line.
The
Rock your
intent.
body in time. Okay. I believe you.
Marcus says, in the case of Deo, I think that was on purpose, and for me added to the otherworldliness.
Oh,
Maybe.
an interesting point. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess. But like, what did it sound like to the people in the dinner with her, you know? Did they sound like it was coming out of her mouth but sounded just like the record? But didn't sound like it was in the space? I mean, even if it was the record coming out of her mouth, it would have sounded like it was in the dining room.
Yeah. Just add a little reverb and you would have been perfect. I mean, just something.
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
sound like the original recording clean. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
okay.
It's just, It's just, you could tell it's a whole other track. Karen says, we know about John's fondness for puppets. What's that about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we interviewed,
Yes.
what was his name?
Yes. When I wasn't here, you interviewed the puppet
John.
guy. Yeah. The guy that worked on the Fraggle
John
Rock.
Tartaglia, yeah. That wasn't me.
Name
That was
drop for
Kat.
Will.
That was Kat. I just got the name right. All right,
You
anyway.
said,
Anyway,
After the film, Belafonte's music became even more popular than it was 30 years earlier, introducing a whole new generation to the songs.
Yes.
It was fine. I don't know. I like the movie, but I don't know that for me it wasn't as a successful juxtaposition as I think they wanted it to be. I don't know, whatever. Who cares?
You mean the music?
Yes.
The soundtrack?
Yes,
Okay.
as compared to the antics of the film. You've got the supernatural shenanigans and then this Jamaican, like folk music. I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna back you up on that, Will's Abductor, because I never really thought about that, but I like that song because it was in Beetlejuice, but I wouldn't like that song nearly as much outside of Beetlejuice had it never been in there. It just felt random. Like it wasn't like a logical, like, of course it's Deo. It's like, what the hell is this, Deo?
Yes.
So,
But isn't
it just
that
felt
part
weird.
Of the movie?
Well, it is.
The
It is.
vibe of the movie is kind of all over the place and random.
It just feels a bit one further step removed from the rest of the weirdness of the movie.
Okay.
Now that you mention it. Yeah, it's...
Okay.
I'll back you up on that a little bit.
I want to hear what you guys would have put in there.
I was trying to think that just now.
Yeah.
That's hard. I mean, I think if it sounded like it was in the space, I think I'd be fine with it. I know I'm being so wonky about this and nobody cares. All right, whatever. Who cares?
We could do Monster Mash or Werewolves of London. There's all kinds of spooky stuff you could have used.
Is that too spot on, though?
But
And then they could have been, they could have been howling, and that could have sounded in the space. It would have been beautiful. So,
Maybe an opera?
Yeah.
Maybe a comedic song?
Or Queen. Scaramouche, Scaramouche.
Yeah. Thunderbolts and Lightning. Okay, it's kind of on the
The
nose.
nothing. Very, very frightening.
I probably would have enjoyed
work.
any of those, actually. Any of your selections.
Owl writes, Jeffrey Jones pleaded no contest and is now a registered naughty person.
Oh,
That's correct.
wow.
Is that what it says on the form?
Is that what I am tonight? Am I a registered naughty
Just
person
gotta-
too? Yeah.
Hi, I just moved to the neighborhood. I'm so naughty.
Dominic writes, Beetlejuice was a feel-good movie, according to Lauren Burbert. That's political. We don't get political. But that's also factual as well.
Oh my gosh.
Brandon says, never have I heard an in-depth discussion about Beetlejuice in a semi-serious
Semi-serious level?
level. Right, there you go.
Level. Mm-hmm.
I'm barely being
Neither
able to
have
read
I,
it as it
Brandon.
is, as tiny as it is on the screen. Okay, hey. In other 1980s
that's the issue,
news,
yes.
in other 1980s news, more. Owl said before they died, Davis and Baldwin were listening to Belafonte in the attic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Day One Right.
All right.
Yeah. And then Nick says, Dawanawanga.
Dawanawanga.
Right, very good. Okay, let's see here. In other 1980s news, as reported by Bloody Disgusting, a Creepshow video game is on the way.
Oh.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Damn it.
I see a head shaking.
No, no.
Oh,
What's up?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
No. Okay. I'm not judging the news. I'm judging the information in the news. Don't get self-conscious.
They said they were. You know what? I had a clip of this. Where did it go?
Oh. Uh-oh.
No,
Is it gonna
this is. I got so many programs and shit. Creepshow. I'm going to take my time and get this right.
We're ready.
Which is something I didn't say before the show.
Well, I think probably 30 minutes in is the time to really get ready.
Definitely.
We're just getting warmed up. Literally, I had to take my glove off. I'm getting very warm. I have to put it back on.
Marcus said, registered naughty person, great rapper name.
Great
I like
rapper
it.
Yeah.
name.
Oh,
I'm naughty by register, not because I hate
R-
you.
you down with RNP?
RNP, yeah, you know me.
Here we go. Creepshow. Okay. A Creepshow video game is on the way.
Fortunes foretold. Come closer. Come near. The reader sees it all. There's nothing.
Oh my goodness.
At the Indie Horror Game Showcase, Dread XP dropped the teaser for their upcoming adaptation of the iconic horror anthology series, Creepshow. While no gameplay was shown and no specifics about the game were revealed, we don't know anything about it. Why am I even bringing it up? I don't know. It will, however, according to the developers, follow the films and TV show in retaining the anthology horror format, consisting of multiple self-contained horror stories that cross gameplay genres and tone. I will say, if you watch that video from which that audio was ripped, it's not scary or creepy at all.
I mean, this is a big reveal of this guy, and it's like he doesn't look ghoulish. He looks like a cowboy
yeah.
or something.
Did you watch this, Kat? Did you watch this teaser?
I somehow missed
Okay.
that. I missed
All right.
the teaser.
Well, here, I'll
Yeah.
tell you everything you need to know. Ready? There's a guy with a real big wide brim hat, but it's tipped down so you can't see his face.
Okay.
And so you're like, Creepshow, this is going to be that Crypt Keeper dude. This is going to be awesome.
Right, yeah.
And then he keeps going, blah, 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 something vaguely scary as you're getting closer to him. And then he goes, and now the big reveal of me. And he tips his hat up, and he's just some weird dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not even skeletal, nothing.
Not even skeletal?
Just
So not only was it not scary, it told me absolutely nothing about this game that's coming up. Beyond that, how do you turn Creepshow into a game?
Yes.
It just feels like a latch onto a IP to do whatever game you had planned. Well, it's an anthology, therefore it can be anything that I want it to be.
Right.
I don't have high hopes for this. Why do you announce it if you have nothing to show but that garbage?
Yeah.
It's all uphill from here,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you think if they didn't have the
There you
funding
go.
by now, they're in trouble. Because anybody who saw that's like, no thanks,
Nope.
pass.
Nope.
I thought
Don't take that on Shark Tank.
I thought it was going to
No.
be the Creep also, and the voice isn't even good. The voice actor or the actor Joe Silver, not producer Joel Silver, but voice actor Joe Silver did the voice of the Creep in Creepshow too. And that voice was creepy and weird to me, especially when it's combined with the cartoons. There's something very, and the music, I don't know, it's very unsettling. The cartoon segments, transitions in the Creepshow too.
Yes. I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like nothing. And I could see how you can make it work if it's like the animation from the movie, and maybe each level is like a story or something. But this is, I don't know, this is disappointing already. Yeah.
But don't you think you've got to show us something of that? What
Oh,
they
yeah.
showed us was, it made me less interested in the game than before I'd heard of it somehow.
Yes.
It's like a trailer that made me negative more interested.
We are told that Dread X.
Here you go, Marcus. I'm going to get back into it.
Dread XP's Creepshow video game will bring the series to an interactive format in 2024 across multiple platforms. The game will feature the talents of several renowned independent video game developers, with the mortuary assistant developer Brian Clark acting as the game's creative director. I don't know. It means nothing to us.
Yeah, they're working too hard at this.
Yeah. Of course, the original movie we've talked about came out in 1982. It was written by Stephen King in his debut as a screenwriter and directed by George Romero, who also, of course, directed
Night of the Living Dead.
Yes. Have you seen it?
I started it. I didn't get to finish watching it yet, but we started it.
It's too scary. It was too scary?
I had to go to bed. I needed sleep. I couldn't watch anymore.
She got up to, they're coming for you, Barbara. Click, turning this off. That's like the first 2 minutes.
Very early in.
They're in the house.
Barbara, right?
There's,
Barbara?
I forgot her name. I don't know. But they're in a house. Definitely in like an old farmhouse. Mm-hmm.
I would say watch the movies. I mean, I think Creepshow 2 is even better than Creepshow 1.
That's good advice.
Yeah. More about this video game. All right. Anything else here? Was Creepshow Stephen King, Wes Craven, or Clive Barker? Okay, we got Stephen King. All these horror properties are running together. Exactly. Yes.
I agree, Karen.
Marcus says, I love how Will, and he says love, and I imagine it's in quotes. I love how Will is making linguistic decisions on a word-to-word basis.
I love it too.
I'm not married to it. Anyway, okay, very good. That was 1980s.
Very good.
He's linguistically fluid.
Yes. That was 1980s. Booze. That sounds like an alcohol, though. That was 1980s.
Booze.
I don't know.
That's it.
Hey, our independent podcast is brought to you every week by folks just like you. So if you'd like to help us out, please follow us on the podcast platform you're listening to right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share an episode on Facebook. All of these actions just take a moment and are 100% free. But if you'd like to chuck in a buck and help us keep publishing the show week after week, please visit us at 1980snow.com/support to find out how you can send us $1 or $2. And thank you so much. It means a lot.
All right, hey.
Sammy Davis was asked to be in the movie Beetlejuice? What?
Oh, yeah. I don't know who it would have been.
Wow.
Yeah, Dominic also said Arnold Schwarzenegger was asked to be in it. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1980s was asked to be in every movie. Because he was box office gold. It was like guaranteed.
Yep.
Even his worst films made money. All right, hey, as we mentioned earlier, let's talk about actually, so we I think we teased or mentioned this. I think it was on the show. I know we talked about it before the show that the Netflix recently aired a documentary, what they're calling a documentary.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
On Netflix about the the Glatzel possession / Bono murder. From the early 1980s, which was the subject of many different made-for-TV movies, and most recently a feature film, The Conjuring 3, which came out in 2021. Anyway, so here we got another stab at this story. So I figured we'll talk about some of the quote. Okay, the real events, I suppose. And
are you saying that with air quotes? The real?
Well, I guess I'll say we'll talk about the events as they were. As we understand them, how they were, portrayed in the documentary, which follows for the most part the stories as we have been told for decades now, and some other information that maybe leads to some questions about this whole Michigas. So, John, I know you were hot on this documentary. You like this sort of thing. Did you actually get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I think I have watched about 75% of it before I. Got either sidetracked or perhaps in my old age fell asleep.
I love the percentage. I have no percentage. No idea what percentage I watched of the Night of the Living Dead.
It's an okay produced documentary. I didn't know what to expect. When we talked about it, I had not seen a trailer or anything. Yeah. And I thought it was going to be, some people talking about this murder trial and be some stock footage and then when it cuts to the guy sitting in a chair going, hi, I was possessed by a demon when I was 11 years old. They have the guy. Yeah. And they have his family. Yeah.
Right.
And he says the first time he's spoken on camera about any of this. And I just okay, now this is something I want to watch. And so when I was fading, I think is probably when I stopped it because I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep during this. But it's not the best made documentary ever. Have you watched any of it? You haven't, Kat. Have you any of it, Will? You
I didn't get a chance.
They say every photograph and every audio sample is real, but they reenacted scenes. Of course, they had no video footage of things that took place. And some of the pictures and audio stuff is, if you can believe it was undoctored, it's pretty weird. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I do have an audio clip from one of the recordings that were made by the Warrens, who were, the protagonists in the Conjuring films and some other films, were the demonologist in the Amityville Horror. That story too. I do have a clip of an audio clip that they made during the exorcism of David Glatzel, who John's talking about.
Get out of my son. Get out of my son. Come on. Come on, son. Come on. Get up. Get away from me. No! I'm your mother. David. Wake up. Get up. He's the Holy One who loves you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Not a whole lot of David there, but like Tom was pointing out, I mean, the kid speaks in that sort of, low register voice, very growly, swears, obscenities at his mother, says Jesus will die in hell, calls his mother a douchebag, and then laughs.
Oh my.
There's some funny things too. But I saw one critique of the
No, wait, hold up. Hold a second. Before we go any further, I need to know.
That was amazing.
I need to know your attitude toward demonic possession. Do you think it's total bullshit? Is there something to it? Because I think that foundation is important as we talk about this thing. So I sprung it on you. So I'll start first.
Okay.
I don't know that I believe in demons or angels or anything, but I certainly believe in extra normal, paranormal, something beyond our senses. I believe it's possible that there is some sort of energy left over that could do something. The religious aspect, I'm on, but I don't think it's BS. I think there's something to it. So, yeah. What do you think? So Will is having an out of body experience. What about you, Kat?
Definitely is. He's looking for body parts or something.
For this book.
There we go.
I'm with you, John. I'm not. I don't. It's not something I believe. Like, oh, that actually happened. But I'm open to the possibility that there are things that can happen that I, don't happen to believe in, or that I might not fully understand. I'm not.
So you're open to that, though you don't have a belief, but you're open to the possibility. Is that fair?
Yes, because I'm sort of I don't say, oh, never. I don't say that could never happen. But I'm not a believer. Yes.
Yeah, I guess, John, first, you said something about some sort of energy, something left behind. That's where I reached for this book. To that extent, I recommend this book by parapsychologist Brandon Masulo, who's a guest on the show. One of our very first guests. What he advances here as far as accounting for spirits, it's a scientific thing that is really interesting to me. And it's that essentially we're all made up of, electromagnetism. The earth is made of electromagnetism. And in short, when we pass on or when we do activities, I'm oversimplifying it, that the earth itself is like a solid state drive, and different things, including us, events, etc., can get stored in it. And folks experiencing what they would think of as supernatural activity, or ghosts, etc., feelings or, of something happening or even seeing something, he believes is people having this ability to sort of being hypersensitive to this electromagnetic energy, this data that's stored. Okay. That doesn't account, and if you believe that, then that doesn't account for possession, and therefore, if you think this is the only thing that accounts for all sort of paranormal activity, there is no possession, because these things are just recorded. They're not interactive. It's basically like you've seen some of these sci-fi films where they're able to play a moment that happened. Like Minority Report, I think, has something like that. But as far as demons and possessing people, I don't believe in that. I think it's a crock of shit. I think lending to that is this idea, which is fascinating to me, is that, like in this Glatzel story that we'll talk about, ultimately they have this kid exercise. So I guess just quickly, in short, what happened is this family, the Glatzel family, moved into a home in the 1980s, in 1980, to be specific. And immediately the young boy, David, who was 11, starts saying he's feeling weird things. He does claim he saw like a figure at different times, including at night. He saw it out in the woods. He saw the face of this figure in the darkness, I think, inside of his home. And he wanted to get the hell out of there. And they didn't believe him. They thought, he's a kid, whatever. Ultimately, he starts acting out. His visions get, worse. He starts speaking in that voice and cursing at his family and that sort of thing. And so it becomes a real, it's a real burden for the family to be dealing with this. So the family contacts Ed and Lorraine Warren. Again, the demonologists from those Conjuring films. They're real life people, or they were. They're no longer with us. And they get I think this is the right order. They get a priest involved to do an exorcism, which is what I played you that clip of. You hear the mother and I think Lorraine talking about trying to get the demon to leave. And I think in the documentary they simplify it. I remember in The Conjuring 3 they simplified it. They do the exorcism, and during the exorcism, David's soon-to-be brother-in-law, so his sister's fiance, Arnie Johnson, says, "Don't pick on this kid. You want to pick on somebody? Pick on someone your own size. Take me." Paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And the exorcism comes to an end. One thing they don't mention is the Warrens claim that they exorcised 41 demons from David, not just one. 41. I think it was 41. It was over 40.
I think it said 42. And I just thought it was ironic because that's the, it's the Hitchhiker's Guide, the magical number, life universe and everything
life
kind of
universe
thing.
And everything,
Because I think the number you remember in the article was that in the film The Conjuring 3, they omitted 41 of them to not confuse
that's
the
what
issue.
it is. 41 plus 1.
Because that would make it sound less believable that there were 42 demons.
Right. Yeah. So they claim they do that. And then months later, I don't know, what is it, John? 9 months later, Arnie Johnson, who I told you about, is will be the brother-in-law ultimately of David, the possessed kid. So the kid's fine now for months. After the exorcism, he's fine. And then what happens is Arnie Johnson, who at the time is 19, his sister Wanda and his fiance Debbie Glatzel, her cousin Mary and Debbie's employer, who's also her landlord and Arnie's landlord because they're living together. His name is Alan Bono. They go to lunch at a bar, and over the course of the afternoon, Bono drinks to a point where he's belligerent. And Johnson suggests to the girls, "Let's get out of here. We don't want to be around this guy."
Right.
And apparently, according to the story anyway, Bono starts roughly handling the young girl, Mary, which makes Johnson really angry, who then gets into a fight with Bono, pulls out a pocket knife, and stabs Bono repeatedly. Bono dies a few hours later from the wounds. Johnson is found about 2 miles away from the scene of the crime. When he's picked up, he says he doesn't know what happened. He's told you killed your friend. He doesn't remember what happened since, being at the bar and being found on the side of the road. Again, what the documentary covers is ultimately his attorneys decide, in the Warrens, with the Warrens in the family, they put 2 and 2 together, so to speak, and they realize, hey, jackass, you shouldn't be asking demons to come and possess you when we're exercising them. That's what happened. That's why you killed them. The demon went in you. Okay. So they find an attorney who's willing to take on this case to argue that it's the first in the U.S. Now, it's the first in the U.S. that, prepared to argue that you're not guilty by means of, demonic possession.
Demonic possession. Yeah.
According to the attorney in the documentary, it had been successfully argued, this type of defense in England, in the UK, 3 times prior, but never in the U.S. Now, I take issue with this whole title of this thing, Devil on Trial, or any of the articles about it, because as John knows, for even just watching 75% of the documentary, They never argue that it was a defense based on demonic possession because they go to the judge, hey, this is what we want to do. And the judge says, yeah, you're not doing that. Nope. Right. You can't. What are you going to bring in for evidence? No, forget it. We're not doing
that. Yeah. That was the foundation on which they wanted to build a case. Yeah. And they're like, you can believe that, but you can't actually use that as the defense because it's indefensible. It's unprovable.
Yeah.
As far as we know, as far as anyone knows, it's unprovable.
What would you bring in? Yeah, exactly. So,
Arnie, it's gonna be like Miracle on 34th Street. I call to the stand.
Yeah,
the devil.
Right.
Well, I do have the devil's mail here, so perhaps we can deliver the devil letters to the devil to this guy.
And what would he swear on a stack of?
Right.
Necronomicon.
Karen says, are you guys familiar with the McMartin's trial? I went down a rabbit hole recently doing an article about the Satanic Panic for the Retro Network. Yes.
Yeah.
That's another one. That's another one where the devil got maligned. Well, look, this is an era. Yeah, this is an era of, and what's that book called? Michelle Remembers or Remembered. That an era where this concept of demonic possession and people eating babies and worshiping the devil and hypnosis used to recall events that you had buried that involved this is when it's all happening. So it's not surprising that this is advanced.
Yes.
Anyway, so then Arnie, they switch their defense and he starts arguing self-defense. And the jury sentences him to 20 years. He does 5. And when he comes out, he and Debbie get married and they're together, happily married until she passed away a few years ago. And that's the story as presented in the documentary. And, we're to believe that these people believe this, but there's other facts.
And I think I found it fascinating that the other facts actually make it slightly more believable if you knew all the other facts. And yet they omitted some of the most supportive details that would lend more credence to the story.
Well, what do you think?
And two, while we're talking about it, I think the part they're not addressing necessarily is that maybe it's not demonic possession, but if the parties involved believe it is, then that is the problem, although it's only due to a mental problem in the person. So for that person, in their mind, in their world, that is why they did it.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that's really why they did it.
Right? No, but it could be a delusion. It could be categorized as
exactly. You can be so illness. Terrified, you believe it so fully. I mean, there are people have, I guess, died of fear. They're so afraid or they're so distraught and have a panic attack. Yeah. If you believe something strongly enough, it's real to you. You know.
Yeah. Yes. I guess I don't know where we go with that though, because
the way Will's saying, he does not agree.
Well,
but it means no.
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously the law exists in a way that as a gatekeeper, right? Because someone can come in and say, I was flying on a dragon and, the dragon's the one that, stole the car or whatever. It's like, all right, now what? All right.
Where's the limit?
Well, I'm not saying the person is not still culpable for the act.
Right.
Okay.
I don't even think it's a defense, but they can be telling the truth and it still be not factual.
I got you. Okay. Well, to that extent, I'm going to present you with some other things to consider to decide whether or not these folks were telling the truth. In a 2007 lawsuit, David's older brother, Carl, and David filed a lawsuit in which they said that David was actually mentally ill. So David and Carl said this.
I buy that.
Although the family seemed like to John's point, the family claimed that he was possessed. Later, David's father claimed that wasn't true. And in fact, what's interesting in the documentary, I played you that clip of the exorcism and you hear, them telling, get out. And he's saying to his mom, fuck you and all this kind of crazy stuff. You'll burn in hell. Carl, the interesting thing about the documentary, I don't know if you got this far, John. It's kind of a twist for folks, I guess, who are buying into the first part of it is Carl Jr., who's the older brother, is kind of the last 25 to 30% of the documentary. And he's telling all these stories from his perspective. And one of them was, he said, you saw that exorcism and my brother would act out and they would be commanding him, the demon, get out. And he wouldn't listen. My father, at some point, who hung back and was like, I don't believe any of this bullshit. At some point, he just comes storming into the room, grabs my brother, smacks him and says, cut this shit out. We've had enough of it. And he goes and sits and the brother goes and sits on the couch and suddenly he's back to normal. So he said he wouldn't listen to a priest, the demon, but he listened to his father. So
if we're to believe that is the actual fact of what happened, then that suggests that he was continuing to act out in this way as long as someone was believing it and humoring it.
Yes.
Yes.
And then maybe the father was like, come on, you dipshit, quit it. And he's just like, okay, Dad, I'm sorry.
And to that end,
I mean,
to that end on the documentary, oh, no, I'm sorry, son. Go on, please continue. To that end, Carl tells a story that he said when they brought the Warrens in, Lorraine and Ed were telling his mother how a child would behave if they were possessed. Well, they would do this and they would do this. And he said, now, it was curious to me, and he's older. He was 15 at the time. He said, it was odd to me that they didn't send the kids away. Instead, they had David there while they're saying this. He said, so of course, David heard how he was supposed to behave if he were to be believed to be possessed.
Wow. Interesting.
At the very least, you think you'd want to spare a child, that sort of thing. But
again, and to play the devil's advocate, unless he already knew how a demon would behave because it was in him.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I guess the implication...
That's a stretch, admittedly.
The question is, had he been growling and swearing at his mother prior?
Well, but there's before the exorcism, there was certainly footage of him just in his home with Polaroids, and they're holding a little tape recorder up to his face.
Yes.
And he's acting out in that same way, which my understanding of the chronology is that this was pre-exorcism, although we've now learned there were multiple exorcisms. Yeah. So that's the problem with the partial accuracy of this documentary, is that it's easy to misconstrue without all the information.
Right. And Carl pointed out, he said, he thought he found it very strange that the Warrens seemed more interested in recording and photographing the son than helping him. And he thought, and again, the implication being that a lot of it seemed performative. According to something, I don't have the source for this, but this is something I read, and I'll find the source and put it up for you. But that the Warrens played a role in helping create what the defense was. Now, I guess that's assumed, right? They go to the attorney and say, this guy was possessed, and we could vouch for that, I suppose. And he's like, okay, cool. We'll put you on the stand and we'll get you. Of course, that never really happened. Oh, okay. So here, before I tell you one more, another thing from the documentary that I thought was really interesting. Like I mentioned, this story's been covered many different times. In 1983, there was an NBC TV movie that, again, roughly covers the same events. Of course, they take some liberties, and some of it's kind of more wild and more lo-fi, certainly, than the documentary. They changed the names of the people in the case. And in fact, Arnie Johnson, the Arnie Johnson analog is played by a very young post-Friday the 13th Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And the Warrens are played by, or the Warren stand-ins are played by Andy Griffith and Beverly McKinney.
Oh, wow.
In 1983, this is when we get the book. Jared Brittle, with the assistance of Lorraine Warren, publishes a book about the incident called Devil in Connecticut. Lorraine Warren stated the profits from the book were shared with the family. It was either $2,000 or $4,500, depending on the source, as to how much goes to the family by the book publisher, whereas the Warrens received $81,000, according to Time magazine. In the documentary, the Glatzels, including David, are still pretty bitter about how the Warrens seem to make out, and they did not in the ultimate licensing of this story. Carl, to his point, he tells a story in the documentary that he says that the Warrens told the author, this is how we want the story to go. The author did research talking to the family and went back to the Warrens and said, but that's not what happened. They said that's not true. No. And they said, make it scary. Our books sell when they're scary. That's according to Craig.
Yeah. I mean, that's suspect, but it doesn't. So, something's really bothering me. So
what is
I'm going to rewind just a little bit. Remember you said that they were upset that the Warrens were more interested in taking photos and recording audio than actually performing the exorcism. And I agree with that intellectually. But whenever I hear something that's so cut and dried, part of me goes, yeah, but how would that play out? So what if it were real and they performed the exorcism and they fixed everything?
Right.
And they go, where's your proof? And go, oh, we didn't record it. You were there and didn't take a single picture, didn't record any audio.
Yeah.
If the Warrens have seen the things the Warrens claim to have seen, to prevent themselves from being labeled as crackpots, they need to document this stuff or they're going to be labeled as crackpots. So
good point.
Don't you think you need, if you were in their position, wouldn't you also grab a little footage, record a little stuff to prove that you're not just bananas?
No,
that's a completely fair point. Yeah.
I agree in that regard. Yeah. And I guess not having been there, I don't know to what extent. I mean, you see the pictures. It looks like they've got a mic near the kid's face.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, who was recording it? Who was taking the pictures? I guess if the Warrens were doing that themselves, then maybe, yeah. All right, put the camera down.
Yeah.
Let somebody else do that.
Right.
But maybe they were doing it that way. But with regard to the book, when the book was republished in 2006, David, the possessed kid, and his brother Carl sued the authors and book publishers for violating their right to privacy, libel, and, quote, intentional affliction of emotional distress. Carl also claims that the possession story, was a hoax concocted by Ed and Lorraine, as I mentioned, to exploit the family and his brother's mental illness. And the book presented him, Carl, as the villain because he didn't believe in it. He asserted that the Warren, this is also in the documentary, he says that the Warrens told his family, look, when this book comes out, you're going to be millionaires. And we're going to get this, and it's going to help, and this possession story is going to help keep Arnie out of jail. Of course, none of that became true. They didn't make out, and Johnson went to jail. Glatzel's father, Carl Sr., denies he ever said to the author that his son was possessed.
Wow.
Really?
Even though the book conveys it that way. Yeah.
Got pretty far down the road to go back and say, I never even said it.
Right. Yeah.
In The Haunting, which is another reenactment of this story for some TV show years ago, I want to say it was in the 90s, but they also tell this same story. In that version, a few days after Johnson egged on the demon that I mentioned to you during the exorcism, he was attacked, he claims, by the demon, which took control of his car while he was driving it and forced him to drive into a tree.
Demons hate Chevrolets. They do.
Whoopty.
You will drive a Ford or nothing.
It was the early 80s. He was driving a Japanese car, and this demon was like,
Buy American.
The demon was going to just run it out of gas, but it's so fuel efficient, he just chose a tree.
Now, with regard to the Warrens, this isn't the first of all, you can look up stuff about Ed Warren. He's got some Jeffrey Jones type allegations against him.
I know. Yep.
Involving a young woman, which you can look up. But that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the veracity of these stories. Like John said, maybe they really did have these encounters that, that they documented. But this is not the first time that they've had a scandal like this. Similarly, like I mentioned, they were involved in the Amityville horror. In that story, just shortly, I want to say it's Ronald DeFeo murders his entire family at this particular home. I think it's in 75, I want to say, or 74. And the next year, the Warrens are brought in to investigate. They say it's got, evil spirits and demons, etc. A year later, this new family buys the home and, starts having all these crazy experiences, which is the subject of the story of the Amityville horror. But that's, I've got years here. 74 was DeFeo. 75, the Lutz family moves in.
Yep.
But in September of 1979 issue of People magazine, William Weber, who was, I believe he was the DeFeo's attorney. Now, they were saying that that DeFeo was probably possessed by a demon. That's why he murdered his whole family. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does.
William Weber, again, the defense attorney, I believe he's the defense attorney for DeFeo, said, quote, in People magazine, I know this book is a hoax. We created this horror story over many bottles of wine.
Wow. That's pretty damning.
And this refers to a meeting that Weber had with George and Kathy Lutz, during which they discussed what would become the outline of Jay Anson's book. So there you go. Now, finally, John, what's interesting to me in the documentary is the final story that Carl tells is he says that when he was doing some cleaning up with his wife, he came across some letters or journals that his mother kept. He said that his mother documented everything that she did because she had OCD. It was part of her, focus was to do these things. And one of the things she documented was, and he presented one of these handwritten notes, was how she would give the children, her family rather, their medicine every night. And one of these journal entries was, gave the family their medicine, everybody slept well. Do you have a sound for that?
No. I was wide-eyed, and then I realized you couldn't tell I was wide-eyed, so I had
your wide eyes.
So I had to show you my surprise.
Perfect.
What he says is, what he said he remembers is that his mother would routinely give he and his brothers and his father Sominex every day. Wow. And one of the dangers of Sominex is prolonged use, and they had it for years, is hallucinations.
Wow.
So, of course, David, who now is saying he's possessed, in spite of the fact that I told you in 2007 he had a lawsuit where he's saying he was mentally ill, said that his brother is wrong, that their mother loved them and she would never do such a thing. Now, again, Carl has this journal that's handwritten by his mother that says this. Anyway, so there you go, John. You talked about facts and how they're presented and et cetera and so on. By the time you get to the end of the documentary, I think you have a more complete story. Criticism of the documentary that I've seen is that some of the audio that we've heard that John mentioned, some of the photos are ginned up. Yeah. That if you find the raw audio, or if you listen to the audio in the movie, you'll hear some extra growling. You hear some music underneath it, of course, because it's make it like very cinematic. And it seems to me, when I listen to like that clip I played you just there, it seems to me that this is just me off the top of my head, so it might not be correct. They edited it in such a way that there was more of David and more call and response, where like the mother was saying, "It's me, mommy," and he's saying, "Fuck you, go to hell." Kind of like, Linda Blair's Reagan in Exorcist. Whereas when you listen to the actual tape, he's not saying as much as it presented, it seems to me.
Oh, like maybe he's just spewing this profanity and not necessarily in response to any one individual. He's just acting out, you think? Or
no, not necessarily. But it doesn't seem like
just the volume is not so much.
Yes, volume not as in level. You mean as in quantity? Yes, the quantity.
Right.
Yeah.
And the photos, they make 3-dimensional and sort of interactive. They're moving around in these images, and some of them, if you didn't have the context they portrayed, you wouldn't necessarily know what it's about. Like there's an image, I think it's of Arnie, what looks like he's wrestling with David. It could be playfully. It could be that he's holding him down because there's a demon inside him. You don't know. But they present it as if he had to hold his brother down, or his brother-in-law down, that sort of thing. That's the criticism I've seen of it. And other criticism suggesting that the documentarians weren't objective in their presentation. I don't know that I agree with that because, again, the latter half of the documentary is Carl's side of the story.
So it's balanced, it sounds like.
Yeah,
I
think so. Well, I think that would be a hard hurdle to clear if they give any credence whatsoever to this entirely unbelievable to the majority of the population that anything like this could even happen. So I could see how you go, oh, well, if you even entertained that it's possible, you're skewed toward the paranormal. I mean, that in itself would be a bias if you chose to determine it's not possible. But it depends who you ask. Some people would say, well, it's fact. Is it fact? Is it fact that this is not real? I think that's the problem. We don't know. That's what makes it paranormal. It's not normal.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the paranormal is that
by definition,
it's so not normal.
It's not that I necessarily believe it's true. It's that you can't prove it's not. So there's a possibility of something extra normal out there that I find fascinating.
Yeah, but that's dangerous, right? I mean, just generally in logic and arguments.
Only if you're an idiot.
Generally in arguments.
Are you saying I'm dangerous?
No.
Because I entertain the possibility?
No, what I'm saying is, and I know you know this, but for everybody else, it's not the role of someone to prove your thing is not true. It's your job to prove it is true. So someone who asserts I was possessed by a demon, you can't prove that I wasn't. Well, that's not my burden. Your burden is to prove you were possessed by a demon. So when you say like the possibility of these things exist because you can't prove they're not true, well, whoever believes those things has to prove they are true.
In legal forums, sure.
Yeah.
No, it should be beyond that. I mean, that's the kind of problem we're in, I think, right? With all this sort of misinformation and people willing to believe whatever.
I don't believe it's so cut and dried. So I'm entertaining possibilities.
What I do think, John, is it's very exciting to believe in these kinds of possibilities. You know, life can seem, not lately, but life can seem pretty boring and mundane, and to believe in these other things, it makes it really exciting.
I'll give you that. That's true.
Right.
That's fair. Yep.
Cool. All right. So that was that. Hey, let's say that was the whole show, right? I mean, that was, that was it. Whatever that was.
And that,
I'm going to get back in character.
Whatever that was, or this is brought to you, thanks in part. Oh yeah, put your gloves on.
It's important.
Yes. Get in there. All right. Yes, thanks in part to our early adopters like Karen Flieger, who's here with us tonight.
Yeah, Karen.
Oh. Yay, Karen.
Yes.
Thank you, Karen. And also Rick Parker. And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters like John Henderson, who was here briefly. I think he's gone now.
Was he?
Brandon Greer, whom is here? He just commented right there. I see him. Thank you, Brandon.
Yes,
Marcus Taylor, who I think is still here. I don't know. Maybe we put him to sleep. Thank you, Marcus.
That's a vote of confidence.
Tony Great.
Yes.
Great.
Nick Guillory, whom also is
Nick.
here tonight.
Oh.
Craig Coletta. And Matt Marino.
Go Matt!
Oh, we should have challenged Kat to say everything in a Halloween way. Nick Bullery, Craig Bullata, Matt Burino, Marcus Bull.
I wish I'd thought of that.
Just turn them all into booze.
I'm glad you did, Kat. That was terrible.
Hey guys, thank you so much for helping support this show. I think he's a mad
Yes.
scientist. What does that mean? Will she? Will give,
Well, Miss So
will she give
asks-
us? Yeah.
is Will Svengoolie
Oh.
or Dracula?
I am a creature of my own making, born in my very own lab. We asked folks on Facebook what their favorite horror movie is. Brandon goes with Truth or Dare, A Critical Madness. I don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
He says a very low-budget film released straight to video in 1986. Huh. I hope it's not body horror. I don't like body horror. Kane says Street Trash, which is body horror. It's a very bizarre movie where homeless people are being killed by some beverage. Melted. They're being melted.
A
Eric
beverage.
said, yeah, it's like Mad
like a
Dog, but
beverage.
but like acid.
Oh,
Eric says,
mm.
Some might call it cheesy, but I'm going with 1987 horror masterpiece known as Killer Workout. Also known as Aerobicide.
Eric was trying to convince me that this was on my watch list. And I'm like, oh, no.
I just love that those exist. I don't even need to see them.
Nick says The Toxic Avenger. I grew up watching it edited
okay.
for TV.
Yeah.
I finally saw the full version this year. Wow, how different they are.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And Kathy says Night of the Comet, which of course starred someone who was on the show, but I won't mention her.
Oh.
Catherine Mary Stewart. Okay,
There it
there you
is.
go. Very good.
There it is.
Now, because I am a ghoul of my word, I'll bring you. We'll make a deal with your friend Will and see if we can't let him out. If you can't hear him, I just give up. I'm going to give up. Hopefully you can hear him. So just let me know if you can hear him right away and see how he's doing.
The show is over, Will. But I'll give you a chance to say the closing.
Oh, yeah. I'll do that. But you're going to let me out if I do that?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, we will talk to you again next time on 1980s Now.
You're free to go.
Oh, there he goes.
Ooh.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. Hey guys. Hey, are you still recording?
Hey. Yep, still
Hello.
recording.
Hey.
Just the tail end.
Oh my
There you go.
goodness. It is so good
okay?
to
You
be
okay?
back with you in the studio.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We missed
Hang
you.
on, I think I'm having a hard time hearing you. Hang on. Let me not
Okay.
sure what this
All right.
the other guy did. Hang on, let me see here.
Oh, the other guy.
Oh.
He actually thinks he's back in the studio. But he's not. I created another studio that looks just like it.
Damn it, you
Replica.
devious son of a bitch.
Wow.
Okay. Well, as the man said, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Bye-bye, yo.